cursed town of Eldridge, where shadows whisper and stars twist into impossible patterns, Tom and Eliza uncover a horrifying secret. The Bone Chapel, a decaying relic tied to their blood, is a gateway to an ancient cosmic void that hungers for souls. Armed with a star-run hammer and the cryptic Bone Codex, they battle nightmarish entities and their own unraveling sanity to seal the gates, each victory costing a piece of themselves. As the final alignment looms, the chapel's eternal hunger threatens to consume everything, unless they sacrifice all they are to stop it, knowing the void never truly sleeps. Chapter 1. The Whispering Shadows. In the quiet town of Eldridge, where fog clung to the hills like a shroud, stood an old chapel. It was built from dark stone, worn by time and rain. The people called it Bone Chapel, but no one knew why. Stories, passed down from old folks, said it ate bones, but most laughed it off as silly tales. Tom Harper, a young man with curious eyes and a heart full of wonder, had just moved to Eldridge. He came to fix up his late uncle's house, a creaky place on the edge of town. Tom was 25, with messy brown hair and a love for old books. He worked as a teacher in the city before, but now he sought peace in this forgotten spot. On his first night, Tom unpacked boxes in the dim light of a single lamp. The house smelled of dust and forgotten memories. Outside, wind howled through the trees, making branches scratch the windows like fingers. Tom found a journal in his uncle's desk. The pages were yellow, filled with shaky writing. "The chapel whispers," it read. "It calls to the bones in the earth. Stay away." Tom chuckled, thinking his uncle had gone mad in his last days. But as he read more, a chill ran down his spine. The journal spoke of strange dreams, where stars fell and shadows moved on their own. Tom set the journal aside and went to bed. Sleep came slow. In the dark, he heard faint sounds, like murmurs from far away. They grew louder, turning into whispers that seemed to come from the walls. Bones. Feed. Eternal. Tom sat, up, heart pounding. Was it the wind or something else? He grabbed a flashlight and stepped outside. The night air was cold, biting his skin. The chapel loomed on the hill, its steeple piercing the sky like a black needle. Moonlight cast long shadows that danced oddly, as if alive. Curiosity pulled Tom closer. He walked the dirt path up the hill, leaves crunching under his boots. The whispers grew stronger with each step. By the time he reached the chapel doors, they filled his head like a swarm of bees. The doors were heavy wood, carved with strange symbols that looked like twisted bones. Tom pushed them open with a creak that echoed into the night. Inside, the air was thick and musty, like an old tomb. Candles flickered on the altar, though no one had lit them. Who could have? The townfolk avoided this place. Tom stepped in, his flashlight beam cutting through the gloom. Pews lined the sides, covered in dust. Stained glass windows showed scenes of stars and skeletons, their colors faded but eerie. At the front, the altar was made of white stone, smooth as marble but with veins like cracks in bone. Tom touched it, and a shock ran through his fingers. Visions flashed in his mind, vast spaces between stars where things without form hungered. He pulled back, gasping. What was that? Just his imagination, he told himself. But the whispers didn't stop. They told stories of ancient times, when the chapel was built by wanderers from distant lands. These people worshipped not gods, but the void beyond the sky. They believed the stars held secrets, and the earth hid bones that could bridge worlds. The chapel was no mere building. It was a mouth, feeding on the remains of the dead to summon cosmic forces. Tom shook his head, trying to clear the thoughts. This was nonsense. Yet, as he turned to leave, he saw a shadow move in the corner. It wasn't his. It slithered along the wall, forming shapes like grasping hands. Fear gripped Tom. He ran out, slamming the doors behind him. Back home, he locked every door and window. Sleep evaded him. Dreams came instead, filled with endless black skies and whispering voices. In the morning, sunlight chased away the night terrors. Tom laughed at his fear. It was just an old building, nothing more. But deep down, doubt lingered. He decided to ask around town. Eldridge was small, with a main street lined by shops and a diner. Tom went to the diner for breakfast. The place smelled of coffee and bacon. Old-timers sat at the counter, chatting. Tom ordered eggs and sat near them. "Heard about the chapel on the hill?" he asked casually. The men fell silent. One, a grizzled fellow named Hank, eyed him. "Best not poke around there, boy. Bad things happen." Hank's voice was low, like he feared being heard. Tom pressed on. "My uncle wrote about it. Said it whispers." The others exchanged looks. Hank leaned in. "Your uncle, old Silas? He went mad, ranting about bones and stars. Found him dead up there, bones clean as if licked." Tom's stomach turned. The journal hadn't mentioned that. "What do you mean, eats bones?" Another man, slim with glasses, spoke up. "Legend says the chapel was built over a grave pit from long ago. Folks buried there don't stay dead. The stone hungers, pulls bones from the ground." They all nodded, faces grave. Tom left the diner unsettled. He walked to the library, a tiny building with shelves crammed full of books. The librarian, Miss Clara, was kind, with gray hair in a bun. "Looking for history on the chapel?" she asked, seeing his interest. Tom nodded. She pulled out a dusty tome. "Not much written, but here's what we have." The book told of settlers in 1700s who found strange rocks on the hill. They built the chapel, but soon people vanished. Graves were dug up, bodies gone, but bones scattered. Whispers drove some insane. Tom read for hours. The book mentioned cosmic ties, how the builders thought the hill was a thin spot between worlds. Stars aligned certain nights, and the chapel fed to open doors to other realms. Beings from beyond craved life, using bones as fuel. Tom closed the book, mind racing. Was this real, or just old myths? He thanked Miss Clara and headed home. That afternoon, storm clouds gathered. Thunder rumbled like distant growls. Tom sat by the window, journal in hand. He read more entries. Silas described finding a hidden room under the altar, filled with bones arranged in patterns. "They move," he wrote, "like alive." Tom felt a pull. He had to see for himself. As rain began to fall, he grabbed a coat and lantern, heading back to the chapel. The path was muddy, slick underfoot. Wind whipped rain into his face. The chapel doors groaned open easier this time, as if welcoming him. Inside, water dripped from the roof, pooling on the floor. Tom approached the altar, heart thumping. He searched for a way down. Behind the altar, a loose flagstone. He pried it up, revealing steps into darkness. The whispers surged, urging him on. Down he went, lantern light flickering on damp walls. The air grew colder, heavier. At the bottom, a chamber, bones everywhere. Skulls, ribs, femurs, piled high. But not random. They formed circles and stars, like symbols from the windows. In the center, a pit, black as night. Tom leaned over, and a gust of wind from below extinguished his lantern. Darkness swallowed him. Whispers turned to screams in his head. Visions assaulted him, vast entities in space, tentacled horrors that fed on worlds. They hungered for Earth, using the chapel as a gate. Panic seized Tom. He scrambled back up the stairs, bones crunching underfoot. Out of the chapel, into the storm. Rain soaked him as he ran home. Safe inside, he barred the door. But the visions lingered. That night, dreams worsened. He saw his uncle, bones stripping from flesh, feeding the pit. Tom woke screaming. Days passed. Tom tried to forget, busying himself with house repairs. But the whispers followed, even in daylight. Townfolk noticed his pale face, his jumpy ways. Hank warned him again. "Leave it be, or it'll take you too." But Tom couldn't. He researched more, finding old maps showing ley lines crossing the hill, ancient energy paths. The chapel sat on a nexus where cosmic forces met earthly ones. One evening, as dusk fell, Tom heard knocking. He opened the door to find a girl, about his age, with long black hair and piercing blue eyes. "I'm Eliza," she said. "I live nearby. Heard you're asking about the chapel." Tom invited her in. She was from an old family in Eldridge, keepers of secrets. "My gran told stories," Eliza said. "The chapel isn't from this world. Builders summoned it from stars." Her voice was soft but firm. They talked late into the night. Eliza believed the legends. It eats bones to grow strong. When stars align, it opens fully. Tom showed her the journal. Her eyes widened. "Your uncle found the truth. We must stop it." Stop what? Tom wondered. But her passion stirred him. Together, they planned to explore more. Next day, they went to the chapel. Sun shone, but inside felt cold. Eliza pointed out carvings. "These are runes, calling to the void." They descended to the chamber. Bones had shifted since Tom's last visit. Now they formed a spiral, leading to the pit. Eliza touched one, and it vibrated. Whispers filled the air. "It's awake," she whispered. From the pit came a low rumble. Shadows swirled, forming shapes. Tom and Eliza backed away. A bone flew up, striking the wall. More followed, rattling like dry leaves. They fled upstairs, hearts racing. Outside, the sky darkened unnaturally. Stars appeared too early, twinkling, with menace. Back home, Tom and Eliza pored over books. They learned of a ritual to seal the chapel, using salt and fire. But it required a sacrifice, a bone from the living. "No," Tom said. "There must be another way." Eliza shook her head. "The cosmic hunger demands balance." That night, alone in bed, Tom felt bones ache, as if pulled. Whispers promised power, knowledge of universes. He resisted, but temptation grew. In the morning, he found scratches on his arms, like from bony fingers. Weeks blurred. Tom and Eliza grew close, bonded by fear. They gathered supplies, salt from the sea, herbs from the woods. The town whispered about them, calling them fools. But signs worsened. Animals vanished, bones left behind. Graves in the cemetery stirred, dirt fresh turned. One full moon night, stars aligned in a pattern from the book. The chapel glowed faintly. Tom and Eliza went, ready for the ritual. Inside, winds howled, though doors were shut. They spread salt in a circle around the altar. Eliza chanted words from the journal, old and strange. The whispers fought back, loud in their minds. The floor shook. From below, a presence rose. Shadows coalesced into a form, tall, with limbs like branches, eyes like distant stars. It hungered, reaching for them. Tom lit the fire, flames leaping high. The entity screeched, a sound that pierced souls. Bones flew, attacking like arrows. One grazed Tom's leg, drawing blood. Eliza pushed him aside, finishing the chant. She offered her hand, pricking it to drop blood on the salt. "Balance," she said. The entity recoiled, shadows dissolving. The whispers faded to silence. The chapel stilled. They stumbled out, exhausted. The sky cleared, stars normal again. "Is it over?" Tom asked. Eliza smiled weakly. "For now, but the cosmic call never truly ends." Tom looked back at the chapel. It seemed smaller, less threatening, but deep down, he knew shadows lingered, waiting. As days turned to months, Tom settled into Eldridge life. He taught at the local school, sharing stories of stars and history, but never the full truth. Eliza became his friend, then more. They watched the hill, vigilant. But sometimes, at night, Tom heard faint whispers. The chapel slept, but hunger eternal. Bones in the earth stirred softly, dreaming of the void. Chapter 2, The Bone Altar. Tom. Harper woke with a start, the air in his room heavy with the scent of rain-soaked wood. His heart raced, the memory of the chapel's whispers clinging to him like damp cloth. It was only a week since he and Eliza had faced the shadows in the Bone Chapel, and though they'd sealed it with salt and chants, something felt wrong. Last night he'd found a small, polished finger bone on his pillow, clean, white, as if licked by unseen tongues. He hadn't told Eliza yet, but the sight of it twisted his gut. It wasn't a dream. The chapel wasn't done with them. In the gray morning light, Tom met Eliza at her family's old farmhouse on the edge of Eldridge. The house was weathered, its paint peeling like skin, but it felt warm inside, smelling of coffee and herbs. Eliza's dark hair was tied back, her blue eyes sharp with worry. "You look awful," she said, handing him a mug. Tom forced a smile, then pulled the bone from his pocket. Her face paled. "Where'd you find that?" She whispered. "On my pillow," Tom said, voice low. "It's not the only one. I heard folks in town talking, bones showing up in gardens, on doorsteps, even in the diner." Eliza's hands tightened around her mug. "The chapel's awake," she said. "The ritual didn't stop it. It just made it hungrier." They decided to return to the chapel. The hill loomed under a sky heavy with clouds, the chapel's dark stone blending into the mist. Tom carried a bag with salt, candles, and his uncle's journal, its pages now dog-eared from constant reading. Eliza brought a knife, its blade etched with symbols her grandmother taught her. Protection runes, she called them. The path was muddy, sucking at their boots. As they neared the chapel, the whispers started again, soft at first, like leaves, rustling, then sharper, words forming in their minds. Feed, bones, eternal. Inside, the air was thick, colder than outside. The pews were unchanged, dust thick, but the altar at the front was different. Its white stone, once smooth, now had cracks forming a shape like a gaping mouth. A faint red glow pulsed from within, slow, like a heartbeat. Tom's breath caught. "It wasn't like this before," he said. Eliza stepped closer, her hand hovering over the stone. She yanked it back with a gasp. "It's warm," she said, "like it's alive." Tom touched it too, and a jolt shot through him. Visions flashed, endless stars, a void where things writhed, hungry for life. He stumbled, back, heart pounding. The whispers grew louder, telling stories of bones pulled from graves, of the altar as the chapel's heart, beating to call something from beyond. "We need to know more," Eliza said, voice steady despite her shaking hands. "My grands, books might help." They left the chapel, the whispers fading, but never gone. Back at Eliza's, they climbed to the attic, a cramped space filled with boxes and cobwebs. Eliza pulled out a chest, its lock rusted. Inside were books bound in leather, their pages brittle. One caught Tom's eye, the Bone Codex, its cover, etched with the same bone-like runes as the chapel doors. They read by lantern light, pages crackling. The book told of the altar as a living thing, grown from a cosmic seed planted long ago by star worshippers. It fed on bones to strengthen a bridge to other worlds where entities waited, craving Earth's life. "The altar's the key," Eliza said. "If we destroy it, we stop the chapel." Tom frowned. "But how?" Salt didn't work long. The book mentioned a tool, a hammer forged from star metal, lost in the woods near Eldridge. It was said to shatter cosmic bonds. "We find that hammer," Tom said, hope sparking. Eliza nodded, but her eyes held doubt. "If it's real, it's dangerous. The chapel won't let it go easy." That night, the town buzzed with unease. Old Mrs. Thorne, who lived alone by the creek, had vanished. Tom and Eliza joined the search, trudging through rain-soaked fields. They found her house empty, door ajar. On the floor, bones, not hers, but old, yellowed, arranged in a circle. "It's a sign," Eliza whispered. "The altar's calling." At the diner, Hank and the old-timers were grim. "It's waking," Hank said, voice rough. "Happened before, in my pa's time. Bones appear, then folks disappear." Tom shared a look with Eliza. They didn't tell the full truth, but said, enough to warn, "Stay away from the chapel." The next day, they set out for the woods, following a map in the Bone Codex. It marked a spot deep in the forest where an old forge stood. The woods were dense, thorns snagging their clothes. Shadows moved oddly, like they had eyes. Tom's skin prickled, the whispers following even here. "You hear that?" he asked. Eliza nodded, gripping her knife. "It knows we're coming." Hours later, they found the ruins, crumbled stone walls, overgrown with vines. The forge was a blackened pit, but inside, half buried in ash, was the hammer. It was heavy, its head dull but etched with stars. Tom lifted it and the ground trembled. A low growl filled the air, not from wind but something alive. Bones rose from the dirt, skulls, ribs, arms, forming skeletal figures with glowing eyes. They moved, jerky but fast, reaching with bony claws. Tom swung the hammer, smashing a skull to dust. Eliza threw salt, the figures hissing as it burned them. They fought, backs to each other, heartbeats loud in their ears. The guardians fell, but more rose, endless. "Run!" Eliza shouted. They sprinted, hammer in Tom's grip, bones snapping underfoot. The wood seemed to twist, paths shifting, but they broke free, collapsing in a clearing. Panting, they checked the hammer. It was unharmed, its weight reassuring. "This is it," Tom said. "We can end this." Eliza wasn't so sure. Let us take it." "Why?" They headed back, the hammer heavy in Tom's bag. At the chapel, night had fallen, stars bright in a clear sky. The doors creaked open, welcoming. Inside, the altar's glow was stronger, cracks wider, like a mouth ready to speak. Tom raised the hammer, aiming for the center. Eliza grabbed his arm. "Wait, we need a plan. If it's alive, it'll fight." They circled the altar, looking for clues. The journal mentioned a chant to weaken it, words in an old tongue. Eliza practiced them, her voice soft but firm. Tom tightened his grip, then swung. The hammer hit with a clang, sparks flying. The altar screamed, a sound like metal and bone grinding. Cracks widened, red light spilling out, blinding. Bones flew from the walls, repairing the cracks. Skulls rolled, ribs snapped into place. The altar pulsed faster, angry. Tom swung again, harder. The floor shook, throwing them back. Whispers turned to roars. "You cannot stop the hunger." Eliza chanted louder, her words cutting through. The bones slowed, some crumbling. Tom struck again, a chunk of stone breaking free. Black ooze seeped from it, smelling of decay. The altar fought harder. Shadows rose, forming claws that slashed at them. One caught Tom's arm, drawing blood. Eliza threw salt, burning the shadows. They worked together, Tom smashing, Eliza chanting. The altar's glow dimmed, but didn't die. Exhausted, they retreated, the hammer still in hand. Outside, the night was quiet, but the chapel seemed to watch. Back home, they pored over the Codex. It warned the altar could heal unless its core was destroyed, a heart of bone deep within. "We need to go deeper," Eliza said. "Under the altar, like your uncle wrote." Tom nodded, but fear gnawed him. The hammer was strong, but the chapel was stronger. Days passed, and the town grew worse. More bones appeared, in mailboxes, under beds. Animals vanished, their skeletons found in neat piles. At the diner, Hank rallied folks. "We burn it down," he said, but Tom stopped him. "Fire won't work. It's not just stone." He didn't explain the cosmic truth, but his tone silenced them. Eliza found more in the Codex. The altar's hunger tied to star alignments. A big one was coming, a night when the veil between worlds thinned. "We have 3 days," she said. They prepared, gathering more salt, herbs, and candles. Tom practiced with the hammer, its weight familiar now. Eliza carved runes on it, hoping to boost its power. The night before the alignment, Tom dreamed of the altar. It spoke, offering knowledge of stars, of worlds beyond. He woke sweating, the hammer beside him glowing faintly. Eliza noticed his unease. "It's tempting you," she said. "Don't listen." But Tom felt it, a pull, like the altar knew him. They went to the chapel at dawn. The air was heavy, the sky gray. Inside, the altar pulsed like a living thing. Bones littered, the floor moving slightly as if breathing. Eliza spread salt in a circle, chanting softly. Tom raised the hammer, heart pounding. This time, they aimed for the core. The floor cracked under the hammer's blows, revealing a hidden stair. They descended, the air growing colder, thicker. Below was a chamber, walls lined with bones and patterns, spirals, stars, runes. In the center, a smaller altar, black as night, pulsing red. Bones floated around it, orbiting like planets. "That's the heart," Eliza whispered. Tom swung, but the heart pulsed, pushing him back. Bones flew, attacking. Eliza's chants kept them at bay, but barely. The heart spoke, not in whispers, but a deep voice. "Feed me and know eternity." Tom's hand shook, the hammer heavy. Visions filled him, galaxies, endless power. Eliza grabbed him. "Fight it, Tom." Her voice broke the spell. They worked together, Eliza weakening the heart with runes, Tom striking. Each hit dimmed the pulse. But the chapel fought, walls shaking, bones raining down. A rib pierced Tom's leg, pain searing. Eliza dragged him back, finishing the chant. The heart cracked, black ooze flooding out. A final scream echoed, then silence. They climbed, out, bloodied, exhausted. The altar above was still, its glow gone. Outside, the sky cleared. "Did we do it?" Tom asked, limping. Eliza looked back. "For now. But the hunger's deep. It'll try again." They returned to town, hiding the hammer. Folks noticed the change. Bones stopped appearing. Animals returned. But Tom and Eliza knew the truth. The altar was only part of it. The chapel's roots ran deep, tied to stars and voids. They vowed to watch, to learn more. At night, Tom felt the hammer's weight in his dreams. It whispered, not like the altar, but softer, promising strength. He pushed it away, but doubt lingered. Eliza noticed, her hand on his. "We're in this together," she said. Tom nodded, but the chapel's shadow loomed in his mind, its hunger eternal. Weeks later, a new sign came. The ground near the chapel shifted, dirt rising like something stirred below. Tom and Eliza exchanged looks. The bone altar was quiet, but something else was waking. Chapter 3. Echoes from the Void. Tom Harper couldn't shake the dreams. Every horizon night since they'd struck the bone altar, his sleep was haunted by vast, empty spaces where stars flickered like dying candles. Voices echoed in those dreams, not the whispers of the chapel, but deeper, colder, calling his name from a place beyond the sky. He woke each morning in his uncle's old house, sweat-soaked, the air heavy with the scent of dust and something sour like decay. The hammer, etched with star runes, sat on his bedside table, its faint glow pulsing in the dark. It felt alive, watching him. Eliza noticed the change in him. At her farmhouse, over strong coffee, she studied his tired eyes. "You're not sleeping," she said, her voice soft but firm. Tom rubbed his face, hesitant to share. "It's the dreams," he admitted. "They're not just mine. I heard folks in town talking. Nightmares all the same. Black skies, voices calling." Eliza's face tightened. She'd had them too. "It's the chapel," she said. "The altar's quiet, but something else is waking." The town of Eldridge was restless. People whispered in the diner, their faces pale. Old Hank, the grizzled farmer, spoke of his dreams at breakfast. "Heard my pa's voice, dead 20 years, telling me to go to the hill." Others nodded, sharing tales of loved ones long gone, their voices echoing from nowhere. Animals howled at night, and lights flickered without cause. Tom and Eliza exchanged looks. The chapel's hunger hadn't died. It had shifted. They returned to Tom's uncle's house, searching for clues. In the attic, among boxes of old books, they found a telescope. Its lens pointed at the sky. A note in Silas's shaky handwriting was taped to it. "Watch the stars. They speak." Tom set it up by the window, peering through. The night sky wasn't normal. Instead of clear constellations, he saw swirling colors, purples, reds, like bruises on the heavens. Shapes moved in the distance, not stars, but something alive, watching back. "Eliza, look," he said, stepping aside. She gasped. "That's not our sky, it's another place." The Bone Codex, pulled from her attic, had hinted at this, a thinning veil between worlds where the chapel's power drew other realms close. The telescope showed a glimpse of that void, where entities waited, their forms twisting, hungry. The dreams weren't random. They were echoes from that place, reaching into minds. That night, the echoes grew louder. Tom and Eliza were at the diner when a scream pierced the air. Outside, a beam of light shot from the chapel's steeple, piercing the sky like a needle. Stars pulsed unnaturally and the air buzzed with a low hum. People stumbled from their homes, eyes glassy, drawn to the hill. "It's calling them," Eliza said, grabbing Tom's arm. They ran, shouting to wake the townsfolk, but many kept walking like sleepers in a trance. At the chapel, the doors were open, the beam brighter, pulsing with the same red glow as the altar. Inside, the air was thick, vibrating with sound. The pit below the altar, where they'd seen the bone heart, was alive, swirling with shadows. Whispers turned to voices. Clear now. Come. Join. Eternal. Tom felt the pull, his feet itching. To move closer, Eliza slapped his face hard. "Stay with me," she snapped. Her voice broke the spell. They found the Codex's sealing chant, words to push back the void. Eliza began, her voice steady despite the chaos. Tom spread salt around the pit, hands shaking. The beam flickered, and the voices screamed, angry. Shadows rose from the pit, forming shapes, tentacled, eyeless, their forms shifting like smoke. They reached for the townsfolk, who stood frozen, faces blank. Tom grabbed a candle, lighting it with a match. Its flame burned blue, unnatural. He threw it into the pit, and the shadows recoiled, screeching. Eliza's chant grew louder, words in an old tongue that burned Tom's ears. The beam dimmed, the shadows thinning. One by one, the townsfolk blinked, waking, confused. They stumbled out, guided by Tom and Eliza. The beam faded, the voices quieted, but a single echo lingered in Tom's mind. More will come. Back home, they collapsed, exhausted. The Codex warned of the void's persistence. The chapel was a gate, and the echoes were its heralds, testing the town's will. "We stopped it tonight," Eliza said, "but it's not over. The stars are still wrong." Tom nodded. The telescope's images burned into his mind. He felt the hammer in his bag, its weight heavier now, as if it carried the void's gaze. The next day, the town was quiet, but fear lingered. People avoided the hill, locking doors at night. Hank and the old-timers met at the diner, planning to board up the chapel. Tom stopped them. "It won't help. It's not the building. It's what's inside." They listened, wary, but didn't argue. Tom and Eliza knew the truth was too strange to share fully. They dug deeper into Silas's notes. He'd written of a star alignment, a rare event when the void's power peaked. It was close, days away. The Codex described rituals to seal the gate, but they needed rare items: moonstone, bloodroot, and a bone willingly given. "No one's dying for this," Tom said, voice firm. Eliza agreed, but her eyes were distant. "There's always a price," she murmured. They searched the woods for bloodroot, guided by the Codex's map. The forest was silent, too silent, as if holding its breath. Thorns scratched their arms and shadows flickered, always just out of sight. They found the plant, its red sap bitter-smelling, but as Tom plucked it, the ground shifted. Bones rose, not guardians this time, but small, crawling things. Finger bones, vertebrae, skittering like insects. Eliza burned them with salt, but more came, relentless. They ran, bloodroot clutched tight. Back at Eliza's, they prepared the ritual. Moonstone was harder. Silas's notes mentioned a cave near the river. They went at dusk, the sky bruised with strange colors. The cave was dark, damp, its walls carved with runes like the chapel's. Deep inside, a pool glowed faintly, and at its bottom, a moonstone shone. Tom dove in, the water icy, biting his skin. He grabbed the stone, but the cave shook, water surging. Voices echoed, not whispers but screams. "You steal from us." Eliza pulled him out, both soaked and shivering. The moonstone pulsed in Tom's hand, warm despite the cold. They fled, the cave collapsing behind them. At home, they studied the Codex. The bone was the last piece, but it didn't mean death, just will. "It has to be ours," Eliza said. "A piece of us, given freely." Tom hesitated but nodded. They'd face it together. The alignment night came, stars blazing in patterns from the Codex. The chapel glowed, its beam stronger, cutting the sky. Townsfolk gathered, drawn despite warnings. Tom and Eliza pushed through, carrying their supplies. Inside, the pit was a vortex, shadows swirling, voices deafening. They set up the ritual, moonstone at the center, bloodroot crushed into paste, salt in a circle. Eliza pricked her finger, blood dripping onto the stone. Tom did the same. Their blood mixing, a willing gift. The chant began, words twisting their tongues. The vortex fought, shadows lashing out. A tentacle grazed Eliza, leaving a burn. Tom swung the hammer, not at the pit, but the air, where shadows thickened. It glowed, star runes blazing, and the shadows screamed, dissolving. The beam flickered, the vortex slowing. Townsfolk outside woke, running home. The ritual held, the pit sealing with a groan. Silence fell, heavy, final. But as they left, Tom heard one last echo. "We see you." He shivered, clutching the hammer. Outside, the stars were normal again, but the sky felt wrong, like it remembered. Days passed. The town settled, nightmares fading. Tom and Eliza kept watch, the hammer and Codex hidden. They grew closer, their bond forged in fear. But Tom's dreams didn't stop. Each night, the void called, softer now, but persistent. He saw Silas, his uncle, standing in the dark, whispering, "It's not over." One morning, a new sign came. The Jeeves river near the chapel turned red like blood. Fish floated, their bones stripped clean. Tom and Eliza stood on the bank, hearts heavy. The void was quiet, but waiting. Chapter 4. The Hungry Stone. The town of Eldridge woke to a strange stillness, the kind that presses on the chest and makes breathing hard. It had been days since Tom Harper and Eliza sealed the chapel's pit, silencing the echoes from the void. But peace was a lie. The bone chapel, perched on its hill, seemed to watch, its dark stone gleaming wetly under gray clouds, as if it had drunk the morning dew. Tom felt it in his bones, a pull, like the chapel. It wasn't done with him. The hammer, etched with star runes, sat heavy in his bag, its faint glow a constant reminder of the fight ahead. Eliza met him at the diner, her face pale, eyes shadowed. "You feel it too, don't you?" she said, sliding into the booth. Tom nodded, sipping bitter coffee. "It's not over. The dreams are quieter, but something's moving." He didn't mention the ache in his hands, like his bones were restless, or the faint whispers that followed him even in daylight. Eliza leaned close, voice low. "The stone's changing. I went up yesterday. It's not just the altar anymore. The whole chapel's alive. They'd heard whispers in town too. Not the cosmic kind, but gossip. Bones still appeared, on windowsills and mailboxes, even under pillows. But now, small things vanished. Flowers wilted overnight. Birds fell from the sky, their feathers scattered but bodies gone. Old Hank, nursing his coffee at the counter, muttered about the hill. "It's hungry," he said, eyes darting. The other old-timers nodded, but no one dared say more. That afternoon, a scream shattered the quiet. A child, little Mary, from the edge of town, had gone missing. Her mother found only a pile of bones in the garden, small, polished, not human. Tom and Eliza joined the search, hearts heavy. The town scoured fields and woods, but Tom knew where to look. "The chapel," he said to Eliza as they slipped away. "It's calling again." The hill was cloaked in mist, the chapel's steeple cutting through like a blade. The doors creaked open, unlatched, as if waiting. Inside, the air was thick, smelling of earth and something sharp, like blood. The altar was still, its cracks sealed since their last fight, but the stone walls pulsed faintly, like a heartbeat. Eliza touched a wall, yanking her hand back. "It's warm," she whispered, "and it's eating." Tom saw it then, cracks in the walls, not random but moving, swallowing dust, pebbles, even a stray leaf that drifted in. The stone was hungry, pulling in life bit by bit. They searched the Bone Codex back at Eliza's farmhouse, its pages brittle under lamplight. The book described the chapel's stone as a living thing, grown from a cosmic seed planted eons ago by star worshippers. It fed on life, bones its favorite, to fuel a bridge to the void. "It's not just the altar," Eliza said, tracing a rune. "The whole building's waking, the stones spreading, getting stronger." Tom's stomach twisted. How do we stop it? The Codex offered no clear answer, only hints of starving it, cutting off its food, sealing its hunger. They planned to block the chapel's entrances, hoping to trap its power inside. At dawn, they gathered supplies, salt, iron nails and boards from Tom's uncle's shed. The town was quiet, still shaken by Mary's disappearance. At the chapel, they workbench fast, nailing boards over doors and windows. But as Tom hammered, the wood splintered, the stone beneath cracking open like a mouth. It swallowed a nail, then another, pulling them into itself. Eliza threw salt, and the cracks hissed, closing briefly. "It's fighting us," she said, voice tight. They retreated, regrouping at the diner. Hank and a few others joined, their faces grim. "We should burn it," Hank said, but Tom shook his head. "Fire won't touch it. It's not normal stone." He didn't explain the cosmic truth, but his tone held weight. Eliza suggested a new plan. Find the stone's source, its root, and destroy it. The Codex mentioned a heart deeper than the altars, buried in the hill's core. That night, Tom dreamed of the stone. It spoke, not in whispers, but a low hum, offering visions of stars, of power beyond imagining. He saw himself standing on the hill, bones rising to serve him, the void bowing at his feet. He woke, gasping, his hands aching worse than ever. The hammer glowed brighter, its runes pulsing. Eliza's warning echoed in his mind. "It's tempting you." He pushed the dream away, but a seed of doubt grew. What if the stone's power could be used? The next day they returned to the chapel, armed with the hammer and codex. The stone walls pulsed stronger, cracks wider, swallowing more. A bird's wing, a handful of dirt. Tom touched the wall, and a vision hit him. Endless hunger, a void where entities devoured worlds, the chapel their gateway. He pulled back, dizzy, but felt a tug, like the stone knew him. "It's in me," he whispered, horrified. Eliza grabbed his hand. "Fight it, Tom. We're stronger." They searched for the heart, following the Codex's clues. Behind the altar, a hidden panel in the floor, revealed by the hammer's strike. It opened to a spiral stair, descending into darkness. The air grew heavy, smelling of rot and metal. At the bottom, a chamber, walls of black stone pulsing red, like veins. In the center, a slab, not bone but stone, smooth and alive, its surface rippling like water. Bones floated above it, orbiting slowly, drawn from the earth. "This is it," Eliza said, voice shaking. "The heart of the stone." Tom raised the hammer, but the slab pulsed, pushing him back. Bones flew, forming barriers, skulls, ribs, snapping together like a cage. Eliza chanted, her runes glowing, weakening the bones. Tom struck, the hammer sparking, but the slab absorbed the blow, cracks healing instantly. A voice boomed, not in their ears but their minds. "Feed me and live forever." Tom's vision blurred, the stone's promise filling him. Knowledge, power, eternity. He saw Eliza, her face fierce, chanting louder. Her voice broke through, pulling him back. "Don't listen!" she shouted. He swung again, harder, the hammer glowing white-hot. The slab cracked, black ooze spilling out, burning the floor. The chamber shook, bones falling, some crumbling to dust. They fought on, Eliza's chance holding the bones at bay, Tom's strikes chipping the slab. A bone shard flew, slicing Eliza's arm. She gasped, but kept chanting, blood dripping. Tom's leg burned from an old wound, but he didn't stop. The slab's pulse slowed, its voice weakening. "You cannot end me." But they did, one final blow shattering it. The chamber stilled, the ooze evaporating, the bones collapsing. They climbed. Out, exhausted, bloodied. The chapel's walls were quiet, the pulse gone. Outside, the sky cleared, stars normal. "Did we do it?" Tom asked, leaning on Eliza. She shook her head. "We heard it, but it's deep. The stone's still alive. Back in town, things improved. Bones stopped appearing, animals returned. But Mary's mother wept, her daughter still gone. Tom and..." Eliza felt the weight of it, guilt mixing with fear. They hid the hammer. Its glow dimmer now, but still alive. The Codex warned of a greater alignment, weeks away, when the stone's hunger would peak again. Nights brought new dreams. Tom saw the stone spreading, not just in the chapel, but under the town, roots of hunger reaching for bones. Eliza woke, screaming, her arms wound pulsing like the stone. "It's in us," she whispered. Tom felt it too, his bones aching, drawn to the hill. They prepared, gathering more salt, researching rituals. The Codex spoke of fire, not normal flame, but one blessed by old rites, fueled by will. They found herbs in the woods, chanting over them under moonlight. The town watched, wary, whispering about the crazy kids fighting ghosts. Hank helped, bringing iron from his farm, believing without understanding. The alignment came, stars blazing in strange patterns. The chapel glowed, walls pulsing again, cracks wider. Townsfolk stayed inside, doors locked, but some felt the pull, eyes glassy. Tom and Eliza entered, carrying fire, candles lit with their blessed flame. The stone fought, cracks swallowing light, bones rising to block them. Eliza spread herbs, their smoke stinging the air. Tom swung the hammer, aiming for the walls. The fire caught, unnatural blue flames licking the stone. It screamed, a sound like breaking rock and howling wind. Cracks closed, but the fire spread, burning deeper. Bones fell, turning to ash. The chapel shook, dust raining from the ceiling. A crack grazed Tom's shoulder, drawing blood. Eliza's wound reopened, but she kept chanting, her voice raw. The stone retreated, its pulse fading. The flames died, leaving scorched walls, silent. They stumbled out, the night clear, stars calm. "We starved it," Eliza said, breathless. "For now." Tom nodded, but the ache in his bones remained, a reminder of the stone's hunger. Weeks passed. The town healed, but scars lingered. Mary's mother left, unable to stay. Tom and Eliza watched the hill, the hammer hidden but close. They grew closer, their bond alight against the dark. But at night, Tom felt the stone's pull, softer, but there. The Codex hinted at a deeper root, something below even the heart. One morning, the ground near the chapel cracked, a faint red glow seeping out. Tom and Eliza stood together, hearts heavy. The hungry stone slept, but its appetite was eternal. Chapter 5. Secrets in the Crypt. I woke with a start, my heart pounding like a drum in my chest. The air in my uncle's old house was heavy, thick with the smell of dust and something sour, like meat left too long. It had been days since Eliza and I burned the hungry stone in the bone chapel, scorching its walls with blessed fire. We thought we'd heard it, starved it, but the ache in my bones told me different. The chapel wasn't done with us. It sat on its hill, dark and quiet, but I felt its eyes on me, like it was waiting. The hammer, etched with star runes, glowed faintly on my bedside table, its light pulsing slow, like a heartbeat. It scared me, how alive it felt. Eliza came by at sunrise, her face pale, her blue eyes sharp with worry. "You're not sleeping," she said, handing me coffee that smelled bitter but warm. I took a sip, my hands shaking. "It's not just me," I said. "The town's scared. They're talking about bones again, showing up in weird places." And my dreams, they're worse. I didn't tell her about the voices in my head. Clearer now, whispering of secrets buried deep. Come, find the truth. Eliza nodded, like she heard them too. The stone's quiet, but something's moving. I went up yesterday. The chapel's different, colder, heavier. We'd heard the talk in Eldridge. Bones kept appearing, on porches, in fields, even inside locked houses. Not human, not yet, but polished clean, like the chapel licked them. Animals went missing too, dogs and cats, leaving only piles of bones. Old Hank at the diner muttered about it, his voice low. "It's eating again," he said, eyes darting. "Happened in my grandpa's day. Bones first, then people." The other old-timers nodded, sipping coffee, too scared to look up. Eliza and I knew it was the chapel, its hunger growing, but we didn't say it out loud. Not yet. That morning, a scream tore through town. Widow Crane's son, Tim, was gone. They found his bike by the hill, tipped over, with a circle of bones. Around it, small, white, like from birds or rats. The town searched, calling his name, but I felt sick, knowing where he was. "The chapel," I told Eliza, my voice tight. "It's taken him." She grabbed her knife, the one with runes her gran carved, and we headed out, the hammer heavy in my bag. The hill was wrapped in fog, the chapel's steeple stabbing through like a black thorn. The doors creaked open, like they wanted us inside. The air was cold, sharp with the smell of wet stone and rot. The walls, scorched from our last fight, were still black, but new cracks ran through them, glowing faint red like veins. Eliza touched one, then pulled back fast. "It's alive," she whispered. "Not just the stone, the whole place." I looked around, my lantern casting shadows that twisted, like hands reaching out. The altar was quiet, but the floor felt wrong, like it was breathing. We searched the Bone Codex back at Eliza's, its pages yellow and brittle. It spoke of a crypt below the chapel, deeper than the bone heart we'd smashed. A hidden place, older than the town, where the star worshippers hid their secrets. "The crypt's the key," Eliza said, her finger on a rune. "It holds the truth about what the chapel wants." I swallowed hard. "And Tim?" Her eyes darkened. "If he's there, we'll find him, but we gotta be ready." The Codex said the crypt was sealed, guarded by traps and riddles. To open it, we needed will. Ours, given freely. "No blood this time," I said, remembering the last ritual. Eliza nodded, but her face was grim. "Will's harder. It takes a piece of you." We gathered what we needed: salt, bloodroot from the woods, and the hammer. The town was quiet, folks locking doors, praying Tim would turn up. But I saw their eyes, scared, like they knew the chapel was waking. We went back at dusk. The sky, bruised purple, stars flickering wrong like they were watching. Inside, the chapel was colder, the air thick enough to choke. The altar loomed, its cracks sealed but pulsing faintly. We searched the floor, looking for the crypt's entrance. I tapped the hammer on a flagstone, and it rang hollow. Eliza pried, it up with her knife, revealing a stair spiraling down into black. The smell hit us: damp earth, blood, and something older, like time itself rotting. I lit my lantern, its flame weak against the dark. The steps were slick, carved with runes that glowed when we passed. Whispers followed, not in my ears but my head. "Seek. No. Fall." Eliza gripped my arm, her breath fast. "Stay sharp." "Tom," she said. At the bottom, a chamber opened, bigger than the last. Its walls black stone etched with names, hundreds, maybe thousands scratched deep. "Victims," Eliza whispered, tracing one. "From long ago." The floor was covered, in bones not scattered but arranged, spirals, stars, patterns that hurt my eyes. In the center, a pit, smaller than the altars but deeper, its edges glowing red. Bones floated above it, moving slow, like caught in a dream. "The crypt," I said, my voice shaking. "This is it." But no Tim, just silence, heavy and wrong. We stepped forward and the floor shifted. A trap. Stones fell from the ceiling, heavy as graves. I pushed Eliza aside, a rock grazing my shoulder, pain sharp. She threw salt, and the bones on the floor stirred, forming shapes. Skeletal hands, skulls with glowing eyes. They lunged, claws scraping. I swung the hammer, smashing one to dust. Eliza chanted, her runes glowing, pushing them back. But more came, endless, their eyes like stars gone mad. We fought, backs together, my arm burning, her knife flashing. The Codex had warned of guardians, but not like this. A skull bit my leg, teeth sharp, drawing blood. I yelled, swinging harder. Eliza's chant faltered, her arm bleeding from a claw. "We need the riddle," she shouted. The Codex said the crypt's secrets opened with words, carved in bone. I scanned the walls, finding a pattern, runes forming a question. What binds the stars to Earth? Will, I said, remembering the book. Our will. Eliza nodded, catching her breath. We knelt, hands on the pit's edge, and spoke together. We give our will freely to know the truth. The pit pulsed, the bones stopping, falling to dust. The air cleared, and a hidden door in the wall groaned open, revealing another chamber. Inside, the air was colder, the smell stronger, blood and stone. A figure stood in the dark, not solid but shimmering, like heat off a road. A man, old in robes like the star worshippers. His eyes were empty, glowing white. You seek the crypt's secrets, he said, voice like wind over graves. I am its keeper, last of the builders. I froze, hammer heavy in my hand. Eliza stepped forward. What's the chapel want? Where's Tim? The spirit's face twisted, not a smile but close. The boy is gone, fed to the void. The chapel is a mouth, built to feed the endless ones. Its heart beats below, deeper still. I felt sick, thinking of Tim, his bike alone on the hill. How do we stop it? I asked. The spirit pointed to the pit. The heart demands will, not blood. Solve its riddles or join it. The walls lit up, runes glowing, forming new patterns. Words appeared, shifting, hard to read. What walks between worlds? I thought of the Codex. The builders believed in bridges, paths to the stars. Us, I said, humans, walking the veil. The runes pulsed, and a stair opened in the pit, leading down. The spirit vanished, its laugh echoing. We descended, the air so cold it burned. The new chamber was small, walls tight, covered in carvings, stars dying, worlds eaten, beings with too many eyes. In the center, a pedestal, holding a single bone, long and white, pulsing red. The true heart, Eliza whispered. I raised the hammer, but the bone moved, floating, spinning. Visions hit me, vast spaces, screams of planets, the chapel swallowing. Earth, I staggered, the hammer slipping. Eliza caught me, her hand warm. Stay here, Tom. The bone spoke, not words but feelings. Hunger, endless, pulling at my soul. It wanted me, my will, my bones. Eliza chanted, her voice shaking, runes glowing on her knife. The bone slowed, but the chamber fought, walls closing, bones rising again. I swung, hitting the pedestal, cracks spreading. The bone screamed, a sound like breaking worlds, and shattered, dust falling. The chamber stilled, walls stopping, bones crumbling. We climbed out, bloodied, exhausted. The crypt was quiet, the pit dark. Outside, the sky was gray, stars hidden. Tim's gone, I said, voice breaking. Eliza nodded, tears in her eyes. We heard it, but it's not over. Back in town, folks mourned Tim. Bones stopped appearing, but fear stayed. We hid the hammer, its glow dim but alive. The Codex warned of a bigger alignment, weeks away, when the chapel's hunger would surge. My bones ached worse, like they remembered the crypt. Eliza's arm bled, her wound pulsing sometimes, like it was tied to the chapel. We prepared, finding more in the Codex, rites to bind the heart, using will and fire. We gathered herbs, chanted under moonlight, the town watching, scared but trusting. Hank brought iron, silent support. The alignment came, stars blazing wrong, the chapel glowing red. We entered, ready, carrying fire and will. The crypt was open, the pit alive again, bones swirling. We set the rite, herbs burning, salt circling, our hands joined. The heart appeared, bigger, stronger, pulsing hate. It fought, bones flying, walls screaming. I swung the hammer. Eliza chanted, our will burning, bright. A bone cut my face, blood dripping. Eliza's wound opened, but we held on. The fire caught, blue flames eating the heart. It screamed, the chapel shaking, dust falling. The heart shattered, silence falling hard. We stumbled out, the sky clear, stars normal. We did it, I said, breathless. Eliza shook her head. For now, it's deep, Tom, always hungry. Weeks passed, the town healed, but Tim's loss lingered. Eliza and I grew close, our scars a bond. The hammer stayed hidden, but I felt its pull, whispering strength. At night, dreams showed the crypt, deeper still, something waiting. One day the hill cracked, red light seeping out. We stood together, hearts heavy. The chapel slept, but its secrets were endless. Chapter 6. The Cosmic Call. I woke up gasping, my heart pounding so hard it felt like it had burst right out of my chest. The air in my uncle's creaky house was thick, heavy with the smell of old wood and something sharp, like rusted iron. It had been only a week since Eliza and I fought our way out of the Bone Chapel's crypt, shattering that awful bone heart with the star-runned hammer. We thought we'd won, at least for a bit, but the ache in my bones said otherwise. It was worse now, a deep pull, like something was tugging at my insides, calling me back to that hill. The hammer sat on my nightstand, its faint glow pulsing in the dark, like it was alive and waiting. Eliza showed up at dawn, her face white as a ghost, her blue eyes sharp but tired. You look like you've seen the devil, she said, pushing a mug of coffee into my hands. It smelled bitter, grounding me a little. I took a sip, my hands shaking. It's the dreams, Eliza, I said. They're not just mine anymore. The whole town's talking, nightmares, voices calling them to the chapel. I didn't mention the whispers in my head, clear as bells, now singing strange words. Come, join, the stars. She nodded, her lips tight. I hear them too. The chapel's waking again. It's stronger now. Eldridge was a mess. Folks at the diner whispered over their eggs, faces drawn. Old Hank, his hands knotted from years of farming, spoke low. Heard my sister's voice last night, dead 10 years, telling me to walk the hill. Others chimed in, mothers, brothers, kids long gone, their voices creeping into dreams, pulling people toward the chapel. Dogs barked at nothing, and the sky at night flickered with odd lights, like stars blinking out of order. Eliza and I knew it was the chapel, its hunger reaching out, not just for bones, but for minds. We went to my uncle's attic, digging through his stuff for answers. Among dusty books and broken clocks, we found a star chart, rolled up tight, with notes in his shaky handwriting. The cosmic call comes when stars align. It opens the gate. I unrolled it, and the stars marked weren't like any I'd seen. Patterns that twisted my eyes like they didn't belong in our sky. Eliza pointed to a date circled in red. Tonight. The alignment, she said. It's calling everyone, not just us. That evening, as the sun bled red into the hills, the call hit hard. I was at the diner with Eliza when a hum filled the air, low and deep, like a giant tuning fork. Glasses rattled and folks clutched their heads, eyes going glassy. Outside, half the town started walking, slow and stiff, toward the hill. It's got them, Eliza said, grabbing my arm. We ran, shouting names, shaking people, but their faces were blank, like puppets. Old Hank followed, muttering. It's like before, in my pause time. We reached the chapel, its doors wide open, like a mouth waiting to swallow. The air buzzed, heavy with that hum, and a faint light pulsed from inside, red as blood. The townsfolk shuffled in, drawn like moths. Inside, the altar was alive again, cracks glowing, the pit below swirling with shadows. The hum turned to voices loud and clear. Join us. Become eternal. I felt it in my chest, a pull so strong my feet moved without me wanting. Eliza grabbed me, her nails digging in. "Tom, stay here." Her voice snapped me back, sharp as a slap. We had the Bone Codex in my bag, its pages worn from use. It spoke of a counter-chant, words to break the call, but it needed strength, our will, poured into the air. "We gotta stop this," I said, my voice shaking. Eliza nodded, pulling out her knife, its runes catching the light. We pushed through the crowd, their eyes empty, and stood by the pit. I spread salt in a circle, my hands trembling, while Eliza started the chant, her voice low but steady, words in an old tongue that burned my ears. The pit fought back. Shadows rose, not solid but shifting, like smoke with eyes. They had tentacles, too many reaching for the townsfolk. One grabbed a man, Mr. Cole, the butcher, his face twisting as he screamed, then went silent, eyes black. I swung the hammer, its runes blazing, and the shadow burst, fading like mist. Eliza's chant grew louder, the air vibrating. The townsfolk blinked, some waking, stumbling back. But others stayed, pulled deeper, their faces calm, like they wanted it. I lit a candle, its flame blew from the herbs we'd blessed. I threw it into the pit, and the shadows screamed, a sound like glass breaking in my head. The hum faltered, the light dimming. Eliza's voice cracked, but she kept going, blood trickling from her nose. "Keep them out!" she yelled. I swung the hammer at more shadows, each hit sparking, the air thick with their shrieks. The townsfolk started waking, running for the doors, but some were too far gone, stepping into the pit, vanishing into the dark. We fought for hours, or maybe minutes. Time felt wrong. The pit slowed, its swirl weakening, but the call didn't stop. I felt it in my bones, tempting me to join, promising secrets of the stars. Eliza grabbed my hand, her touch warm, grounding. "Don't listen, Tom," she said, her eyes fierce. We finished the chant together, our voices blending, shaking the walls. The pit closed with a groan, the light fading, the voices silenced. We led the last townsfolk out, their faces confused, some crying. Outside, the sky was dark, stars normal again, but I felt watched. "We stopped it," I said, panting, leaning on Eliza. She shook her head. "We pushed it back, but it's still there. I felt it in me." Her hand went to her arm, where the old wound pulsed, red and angry. Back home, we collapsed, too tired to talk. The Codex warned the call would return, stronger with each alignment. It said the chapel was a gate, and the cosmic ones, those things in the void, wanted through. They used dreams, voices, to pull us in. "We need more," Eliza said, her voice hoarse. "Something to block it for good." The Codex mentioned a seal, a rite using starlight and will, but it needed a relic, a piece of the void itself, hidden in the chapel. The next day, the town was quiet, but broken. Some folks didn't come back. Mr. Cole, a few others, gone into the pit. Their families wept, and blame turned to us. "You stirred it up," Hank said at the diner, his eyes hard. I didn't argue. He was half right. We went to the library hoping Miss Clara had answers. She pulled out an old book, its pages crumbling, about the chapel's builders. They'd trapped a void shard, a black stone that hummed with star power, deep in the chapel. "Find it," she said, "but be careful, it's alive." We went to the woods first, gathering herbs for the rite. Silverleaf, starbloom, hard to find. The forest was silent, too silent, and bones crunched under our feet, small and white, like warnings. Shadows moved, always just out of sight, whispering, my name. Eliza felt it too, her hand tight on her knife. "It knows we're coming," she said. We found the herbs, but as I picked the last starbloom, the ground shook. Bones rose. Not guardians, but crawling things. Finger bones, ribs, skittering, like bugs. I smashed them with the hammer. Eliza burned them with salt. But they kept coming. Endless. We ran, herbs clutched tight, and made it back to Eliza's. We prepared the rite, crushing herbs, mixing them with salt. The Codex said the shard was in the chapel's steeple, hidden behind a false stone. We went at dusk, the sky heavy with clouds, stars peeking through, wrong again. The chapel loomed, its steeple glowing faint red. Inside the air was thick, the pit quiet but watching. We climbed rickety stairs to the steeple, boards creaking, the hum growing louder. At the top, a small room, walls carved with stars. I tapped, the hammer finding a hollow stone. Eliza pried it open, revealing a black shard, small but heavy, pulsing like a heart. I reached for it, and pain shot through me. Visions of endless dark, eyes like suns, voices promising eternity. I dropped, it gasping. Eliza grabbed it, her face twisting, but she held on, wrapping it in cloth. The chapel shook, walls groaning, bones falling from the ceiling. We ran, the shard burning through the cloth, singing in my head. Back home, we set up the rite. Under moonlight, we placed the shard in a circle of herbs and salt, chanting words from the Codex. The shard fought, its hum turning to screams, shadows rising around us. I swung the hammer, not to break it, but to hold it, my will against its. Eliza's chant wavered, her wound bleeding again, but we held on. The shard dimmed, its power sealed, locked in the circle. The alignment passed, the stars calming, the E. Town slept easier, dreams quieter. But Eliza's wound wouldn't heal, and my bones ached worse, like the chapel knew us now. We hid the shard, the hammer beside it, both glowing faintly. The Codex said the gate wasn't closed, just locked, and the cosmic ones waited, patient. One night, I dreamed of the shard. Its voice soft, tempting. Use me, know the stars. I woke, sweating, the hammer warm in my hand. Eliza was there, her eyes worried. It's in us, Tom, she said. The call. I nodded, our hands touching, a promise to fight. Days later, a new sign came. The chapel's hills sank, like something huge moved below. We stood together, hearts heavy. The cosmic call was silent, but waiting, its hunger eternal. Chapter 7. Devoured dreams. I woke up choking on air that tasted like ash, my heart racing like it was trying to escape my chest. The room in my uncle's old house was dark, the air thick with the smell of damp wood and something bitter, like burned bone. It had been days since Eliza and I sealed the void shard in the Bone Chapel's steeple, locking away the cosmic call that tried to pull the town into its maw. We thought we'd bought time, but my bones ached worse than ever, a deep gnawing pain that felt like the chapel was still inside me. The hammer, its star runes glowing faintly, sat on my nightstand, watching me like an eye that never blinked. Eliza came by at first light, her face pale, her eyes shadowed like she hadn't slept in weeks. "You're falling apart, Tom," she said, pushing a mug of coffee into my hands. It smelled sharp, grounding me for a moment. I sipped, my hands trembling. "It's not just me," I said, voice rough. "The town's dreaming again, bad ones. People are scared to sleep." I didn't tell her about my own dreams, where I floated in a black void, voices whispering promises of power, stars screaming my name. Join, no, forever. Eliza nodded, her lips tight. I feel it too. The chapel's not done. It's eating dreams now. Eldridge was unraveling. At the diner, folks whispered over cold coffee, their faces hollow. Old Hank, his hands shaking, spoke of nightmares where his dead wife begged him to join her in the dark. Others had it worse. Mrs. Lyle said her son, gone years ago, stood at her bedside, his eyes black, urging her to the hill. Last night, young Ben, the baker's boy, didn't wake up. They found him in bed, body withered, skin gray, bones gone, like something sucked them out. The town buzzed with fear, locking doors at dusk, but sleep wasn't safe anymore. We went to my uncle's attic, digging through his papers for answers. Among yellowed letters and star charts, we found a journal page, torn and smudged, in Silas's shaky hand. The chapel feeds on dreams, pulling souls to the void. The gate grows stronger with each mind it takes. I felt sick, thinking of Ben, his empty bed. Eliza pointed to a sketch, a swirling vortex like the pit with eyes staring out. "It's not just bones now," she said. "It's after what makes us human." That night the dreams hit harder. I was at the diner with Eliza when a scream tore through town. Widow Crane, Tim's mother, stood outside, clawing at her face, shouting about her son calling from the dark. Others joined, their eyes wild, muttering about voices in their sleep. The sky flickered, stars pulsing wrong, like they were alive. A low hum started, deep in the ground, shaking the windows. "It's the chapel," I said, grabbing Eliza's hand. We ran to the hill, the hammer heavy in my bag, her knife glinting with runes. The chapel loomed, its doors open, red light spilling out like blood. Inside, the air was thick, buzzing with that hum, the pit swirling faster than ever. Shadows moved inside it, not just shapes but faces. Ben, Tim, others lost, their mouths open in silent screams. The hum turned to voices singing, "Sleep, give, eternal." I felt my eyes grow heavy, my feet pulling toward the pit. Eliza shook me, her voice sharp. "Tom, don't!" Her touch snapped me awake, my heart racing. We pulled out the Bone Codex, its pages brittle, searching for a way to stop the dreams. It spoke of a dream realm, a place where the chapel's hunger reached, pulling souls through sleep. To fight it, we had to enter that realm, using herbs to cross the veil. "It's dangerous," Eliza said, her voice low. "We could get lost." I nodded, but we had no choice. Ben was gone, and more would follow. We grabbed the herbs, starbloom, silverleaf, crushed into a paste, and headed to Eliza's farmhouse. Under moonlight, we mixed the herbs, chanting words from the codex. The air shimmered, and my head spun, like falling. We drank the paste, bitter and burning, and lay down, hands joined. Sleep came fast, but it wasn't sleep. The world twisted, and I stood in a place of gray mist, stars above spinning like wheels. Eliza was there, her knife glowing. "This is it," she said. The dream realm. The ground was soft, like walking on clouds, but bones crunched underfoot, white and clean. Shadows moved, not human, but wrong. Tall, with too many arms, eyes like black stars. They were the devourers, the codex said, eating dreams to feed the chapel. One lunged, its claws sharp, and I swung the hammer, its runes blazing. The devourer screamed, dissolving into mist. Eliza slashed with her knife, cutting another, its wail echoing. We moved deeper, the mist thickening, voices calling our names. I saw my uncle, Silas, his face half gone, whispering, "You can't stop it." I shook my head, pushing forward. The air grew heavy, the ground shifting, forming faces. Townsfolk, trapped, their eyes pleading. "We have to free them," I said, my voice shaking. Eliza nodded, chanting a binding spell, her runes glowing brighter. The center of the realm was a pit, like the chapel's but bigger, swirling with black light. The devourers guarded it, their forms twisting, merging. I swung the hammer, each hit sparking, but they kept coming, endless. Eliza's chant faltered, her arm bleeding from a claw mark. "Keep going," I yelled, smashing a devourer that grabbed her. The pit pulsed, pulling at us, tempting me with visions, stars, power, my name sung across galaxies. I stumbled, the hammer heavy, but Eliza's hand on mine kept me grounded. We reached the pit, its edge sharp with bones. Eliza spread the herb paste, its smell burning the air. I struck the edge with the hammer, cracks forming. The devourers screamed, rushing us, but Eliza's chant held them back, her voice raw. I hit again, the pit shaking, voices wailing, "You cannot end us." But we did, pouring our will into the chant, the hammer glowing white hot. The pit collapsed, the realm fading, the devourers dissolving into ash. We woke, gasping, back in the farmhouse, the herbs burned out. My head pounded, my bones aching worse, but the air felt lighter. "Did we do it?" I asked, my voice hoarse. Eliza nodded, but her eyes were dark. "We closed the dream gate, but it's not over." I felt it, something deeper. The town woke. Easier, nightmares fading. Ben's family mourned, his body still empty, but no one else died in their sleep. At the diner, Hank and the others looked at us different, like we were ghosts ourselves. "You stopped it," he said, not asking how. I didn't tell him the truth. Too strange, too heavy. We searched the Codex for more, finding a warning. The dream realm was one gate, but others waited, each tied to a star alignment. The next was weeks away. Bigger, stronger. To stop it, we needed a seal, a rite using the void shard and our will, stronger than before. "It'll cost us," Eliza said, touching her wound, still red and pulsing. I felt it too, the ache in my bones, like the chapel was part of me now. We prepared, gathering more herbs, chanting under stars that felt wrong, too bright. The town watched, scared but trusting, some leaving offerings, bread, flowers, at our doors. Hank brought iron, his hands steady now, believing in us. The alignment came, the sky blazing with stars and patterns from the Codex. The chapel glowed, its hum back, louder, pulling at dreams again. We entered, the shard in my hand, burning through cloth. The pit was alive, shadows swirling, faces of the lost screaming silent. We set the rite, herbs burning, salt circling, the shard at the center. Eliza chanted, her voice shaking, blood dripping from her nose. I held the hammer, its runes blazing, and struck the air where shadows thickened. The chapel fought, bones rising, slashing at us. One cut my arm, pain searing. Eliza's wound opened, but she kept chanting, her will fierce. The shard pulsed. Fighting back, its voice in my head, "Join us, be eternal." I saw stars, worlds, power beyond dreams. Eliza's hand grabbed mine, her touch real, pulling me back. We finished the chant, the shard dimming, the pit slowing, the shadows screamed, fading, the hum dying. The chapel stilled, the air clear. We stumbled out, bloodied, exhausted. The sky was normal, stars calm. "We locked it," Eliza said, her voice weak. "But it's not gone." I nodded, my bones still aching, the hammer heavy. The town slept. Better, but fear lingered. We hid the shard, its glow faint but alive, next to the hammer. Days passed, Eliza and I closer, our scars a bond. But dreams crept back, softer, showing the pit, deeper still. One morning, the chapel's hill shook, dirt falling, a red glow seeping out. We stood together, hearts heavy. The devoured dreams were quiet, but the chapel's hunger was endless. Chapter 8. The Endless Gate. I woke up screaming, my throat raw, my body slick with sweat. The air in my uncle's old house was heavy, smelling of dust and something sharp, like blood dried on stone. It had been a week since Eliza and I sealed the dream gate in the Bone Chapel, locking away the devourers that ate the town's dreams. We thought we'd stopped the cosmic call, but my bones ached deeper now, like the chapel was clawing at my soul. The hammer, its star runes glowing soft and steady, sat on my nightstand, pulsing like it knew something I didn't. I felt it watching me, and it scared me more than I'd admit. Eliza came by at dawn, her face gray, her blue eyes dull with exhaustion. "You look worse than me, Tom," she said, handing me coffee that smelled bitter but warm. My hand shook as I took it. "The dreams are back," I said, my voice rough. "Not just mine. The town's falling apart." I didn't tell her about the visions, black voids, stars that screamed my name, hands reaching from nowhere, promising secrets I didn't want. "Come, open the gate." Eliza nodded, her hand touching her arm, where her wound still pulsed red. "I hear it too. The chapel's not sleeping. It's calling louder." Eldridge was crumbling. At the diner, folks sat silent, their eyes hollow. Old Hank whispered about his daughter, dead 20 years, standing in his room at night, her voice begging him to climb the hill. Others nodded, parents, friends, lost ones, their faces in dreams, pulling people toward the chapel. Last night, Miss Clara, the librarian, vanished. They found her shawl by the hill, torn, with a pile of polished bones beside it. The town locked doors, burned candles, but the air felt wrong, like it was waiting to choke us. We went to my uncle's attic, searching for answers in his mess of papers. Among star charts and scribbled notes, we found a letter, half-burned, in Silas's shaky hand. The chapel is the endless gate. It opens to the void when the stars align. Only will can close it, but the cost is heavy. A sketch showed a gate, not stone, but light, with eyes staring through. "It's tonight," Eliza said, pointing to a date scrawled in the margin. "The biggest alignment yet." That evening, as the sky turned blood red, the call hit like a wave. I was with Eliza at her farmhouse when a hum shook the ground, deep and loud, rattling windows. Outside, folks staggered from their homes, eyes glassy, walking to the hill. "It's got them again," I said, my heart racing. We ran, shouting, shaking people, but they moved like sleepwalkers. Hank followed, his face grim. "It's worse than before," he said, "like the world's ending." The chapel stood tall, its doors wide, red light pouring out like a wound. Inside, the air was thick, buzzing with that hum, the pit swirling with shadows darker than night. Faces flickered in it, Clara, Ben, Tim, their mouths open, screaming silent. The hum became voices, clear and cold. Open, join, eternal. My feet twitched, wanting to move closer, but Eliza grabbed me, her nails sharp. "Tom, stay with me." Her voice cut through, anchoring me. The Bone Codex was in my bag, its pages crumbling. It spoke of the endless gate, a final door in the chapel's heart, opening to the void itself. To close it, we needed a rite, will, starlight, and the void shard we'd sealed. "It'll take everything we've got," Eliza said, her voice low. "Maybe more." I nodded, feeling the hammer's weight, its runes warm in my hand. We had no choice. Clara was gone, and the town was next. We gathered the shard, still pulsing, and herbs, starbloom, silverleaf, mixed with salt. The rite needed a circle, drawn in starlight. But the sky was wrong, stars blazing in patterns. That hurt my eyes. We went to the chapel at dusk, the hum louder, the air so heavy it pressed my chest. Inside, the pit was alive, shadows twisting, forming shapes, tentacles, eyes, mouths that sang of eternity. Townsfolk stood around it, swaying, their faces blank. Eliza started the chant, her voice steady, runes on her knife glowing. I spread the herbs and salt, making a circle around the pit. The shard burned in my hand, its hum fighting hers. I placed it in the center, and the pit roared, shadows lunging. One grabbed a woman, Mrs. Lyle. Her scream cut short as she vanished into the dark. I swung the hammer, its runes blazing, shattering a shadow. Eliza's chant grew louder, blood dripping from her nose, her wound red and angry. The pit fought, hard, shadows clawing at us. One slashed my arm, pain burning, blood soaking my sleeve. Eliza staggered, a tentacle grazing her, but she kept chanting, her will fierce. I struck the air, shadows bursting, their screams like breaking glass. The townsfolk woke, some running, others frozen, too far gone. "Keep going," I yelled, my voice raw. Eliza nodded, her face pale, chanting through gritted teeth. The shard pulsed, its voice in my head. "Open the gate. Be one with us." I saw stars, worlds burning, power beyond dreams. My hand shook, the hammer heavy, but Eliza's voice pulled me back. We poured our will into the rite, the circle glowing, starlight breaking through the roof. The pit slowed, shadows thinning, but the gate appeared, a tear in the air, black and endless, with eyes staring through, hungry. I raised the hammer, aiming for the shard. The gate screamed, a sound like worlds dying, and shadows rushed us. Faster, stronger. One cut Eliza's leg, blood pooling. I swung, smashing a shadow, then another, my arm screaming with pain. Eliza's chant faltered, her body shaking, but she held on, her hand finding mine. "Together," she gasped. We chanted, our voices one, the hammer glowing white-hot. I struck the shard, cracks spreading, light bursting. The gate wailed, pulling at us, tempting me with visions. Eternity, knowledge, my name sung across voids. Eliza's hand tightened, her eyes fierce. "Don't you dare, Tom!" I hit again, the shard shattering, the gate collapsing with a roar. The pit stilled, shadows gone, the hum silent. The townsfolk blinked, waking, stumbling out. We fell to the floor, bloodied, exhausted. The chapel was quiet, the air clear. Outside, the sky was dark, stars normal, but I felt watched. "Did we do it?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. Eliza shook her head, leaning on me. "We closed the gate, but it's still there. I felt it, in us." Back in town, things settled, but scars ran deep. Clara's shawl was all that remained, her family broken. Folks avoided us, their eyes wary, like we carried the chapel's curse. We hid the hammer and the shard's dust, both still warm, alive. The Codex warned of a final alignment, months away, when the void would try again, stronger. "It's not over," Eliza said, her wound still bleeding, pulsing like a heartbeat. My bones ached, tied to the chapel, like it owned me. We prepared, searching the Codex for a permanent seal. It spoke of a sacrifice, not blood, but will, given forever. "We'd lose ourselves," I said, fear tightening my chest. Eliza nodded, her hand on mine. "Maybe, but we can't let it win." We gathered more herbs, chanted under moonlight, the town watching, some praying for us, others cursing. The alignment came, stars blazing in wrong patterns, the chapel glowing red, its hum faint but growing. We entered ready, the hammer and Codex our only weapons. The pit was quiet, but the air felt heavy, like it held 1,000 eyes. We set the rite, herbs burning, salt circling, our wills joined. The gate flickered, not open, but waiting, its voice soft. "Give yourselves, be eternal." We chanted, pouring everything into it, our fear, our hope, our fight. Shadows rose, weaker now, but sharp, cutting my cheek, Eliza's arm. The hammer glowed, my strikes shaking the air. Eliza's voice broke, blood streaming, but she held on, our hands locked. The gate faded, the hum died, the chapel still. We stumbled out, the sky clear, stars calm. The town slept better, but fear lingered. We hid the hammer, its glow dim but alive. Days later, the hill cracked wider, red light spilling out, stronger. We stood together, hearts heavy. The endless gate was locked, but its hunger was eternal. Chapter 9. The Starless Abyss. I woke up gasping, my chest tight, like something heavy sat on it all night. The air in my uncle's old house was thick, reeking of damp wood and a metallic tang, like blood left to rust. It had been days since Eliza and I shut the endless gate in the Bone Chapel, shattering the void shard and silencing the cosmic voices that tried to swallow Eldridge whole. We thought we'd won a moment's peace, but my bones burned now, a deep, relentless ache that felt like the chapel was chewing on my soul. The hammer, its star runes glowing faintly, sat on my nightstand, pulsing slow, like it was breathing. It scared me, how it seemed to know more than I did. Eliza came by at dawn, her face pale as ash, her blue eyes sunken, like sleep was a stranger. "You're fading, Tom," she said, shoving a mug of coffee into my hands. It smelled bitter, sharp enough to pull me back a bit. My hands shook as I sipped. "It's not just me," I said, voice rough as gravel. "The town's breaking. They're seeing things now, not just dreaming." I didn't tell her about my own visions. Black voids where stars should be, voices whispering my name, promising truths that made my head hurt. "Come, see the abyss." Eliza nodded, her hand brushing her arm where her wound pulsed red, angry. "I feel it too. The chapel's awake. It's digging deeper." Eldridge was falling apart. At the diner, folks barely spoke, their eyes darting, faces gray. Old Hank, his hands knotted, muttered about shadows moving in his fields, shapes with too many limbs, gone when he blinked. Others saw them too. Flickers at windows, forms in the fog, always near the hill. Last night, Widow Crane's house burned, but no fire was found. Just bones piled at her door, polished and white, like the chapel left a gift. The town boarded windows, prayed at dusk, but the air felt alive, heavy with eyes. We went to my uncle's attic, searching his papers for something, anything, to stop this. Among dusty maps and star charts, we found a notebook, its pages brittle in Silas's shaky hand. The chapel opens to the starless abyss, a void beyond voids. It feeds on fear, on will, to widen the gate. Only sacrifice closes it, but it takes all you are. A drawing showed a pit, deeper than any we'd seen, with eyes staring up, endless. "It's tonight," Eliza said, pointing to a starless date scrawled in red. The final alignment. That evening, as the sky turned black, no stars at all, the call hit like a knife. I was with Eliza at the diner when a hum shook the ground, low and sharp, like teeth on bone. Folks screamed, clutching their heads, eyes wide but empty. Outside, they moved, slow, toward the hill, their faces blank, like dolls. "It's taking them," I said, my heart pounding. We ran, shouting, pulling. People back, but they slipped through, drawn to the chapel. Hank followed, his eyes hard. "It's the end," he said, voice flat. The chapel loomed, its doors wide, red light pulsing like a heart. Inside, the air was thick, buzzing with that hum, the pit swirling with shadows blacker than death. Faces flickered in it, Clara, Ben, Tim, Widow Crane, their eyes pleading, mouths open in silent screams. The hum turned to voices, cold and clear. "Give, join, the abyss." My legs shook, wanting to step closer, but Eliza grabbed me, her nails digging in. "Tom, don't you dare." Her voice was a lifeline, pulling me back. The Bone Codex was in my bag, its pages crumbling. It spoke of the starless abyss, the chapel's true heart, a gate to a void that ate worlds. To close it, we needed a final rite. Will, starlight, and a sacrifice of self, not blood, but soul. "It'll break us," Eliza said, her voice trembling. I nodded, feeling the hammer's weight, its runes hot in my hand. We had no choice. The town was slipping away, and we were all that stood between it and the abyss. We gathered the last herbs, starbloom, silverleaf, crushed with salt, and the hammer, its glow brighter now, like it knew what was coming. The sky was empty, no stars, just black, like the world was gone. We went to the chapel at dusk, the hum so loud it shook my teeth. Inside, the pit was a vortex, shadows twisting into shapes, tentacles, eyes, mouths that sang of nothingness. Townsfolk stood around it, swaying, their faces empty, some stepping into the dark, vanishing. Eliza started the chant, her voice raw but strong, her knife's runes glowing. I spread the herbs and salt, forming a circle around the pit. The hammer burned in my hand, its hum fighting the chapels. I set it in the circle, and the pit roared, shadows lunging. One grabbed Hank, his scream cut short as he dissolved into the dark. I swung the hammer, its runes blazing, shattering a shadow. Eliza's chant grew louder, blood dripping from her eyes, her wound pulsing red. The pit fought, shadows clawing at us. One slashed my chest, pain like fire, blood soaking my shirt. Eliza staggered, a tentacle wrapping her leg, but she slashed it with her knife, chanting through gritted teeth. I struck the air, shadows bursting, their screams like metal tearing. The townsfolk woke, some running, others lost, stepping into the pit. "Keep going," I yelled, my voice breaking. Eliza nodded, her face white, blood streaming. The pit pulsed, its voice in my head. "Give yourself. Be the abyss." I saw nothingness, a void that swallowed stars, my name echoing across it. My hand shook, the hammer heavy, But Eliza's voice cut through, fierce. We poured our will into the right, the circle glowing, starlight breaking through the roof, even with no stars outside. The pit slowed, shadows thinning, but a gate appeared, a rip in the air, black and deep, with eyes staring. Out, endless, hungry, I raised the hammer, aiming for the circle's center. The gate screamed, a sound like worlds collapsing, shadows rushing us, faster, stronger. One cut Eliza's arm, blood pooling. I swung, smashing shadows, my chest burning with pain. Eliza's chant faltered, her body shaking, but she grabbed my hand. "Together, Tom," she gasped. We chanted, our voices one, the hammer glowing white-hot. I struck the circle, cracks spreading, light bursting. The gate wailed, pulling at us, tempting me with visions, eternity, nothingness. My soul joined to the void. Eliza's hand tightened, her eyes burning. "Stay with me." I hit again, the circle shattering, the gate collapsing with a roar. The pit stilled, shadows gone, the hum silent. The townsfolk blinked, waking, stumbling out. We fell, bloodied, barely breathing. The chapel was quiet, the air clear. Outside, the sky was black, but a single star flickered, like a promise. "Did we do it?" I whispered, my voice gone. Eliza leaned on me, her breath ragged. "We closed it, but it's still there. I felt it, in us." Back in town, silence fell, but pain lingered. Hank was gone, others too, their families broken. Folks looked at us like we were cursed, their eyes afraid. We hid the hammer, its glow dim but alive, the codex beside it. It warned of no more alignments, but the abyss was patient, waiting. "It's in us," Eliza said, her wound still bleeding, pulsing like the chapel's heart. My bones burned, tied to it, like I was part of its hunger. We tried to rebuild, helping the town, but fear clung, like damp rot. We searched the codex for a final end, finding only whispers of a seal that took everything. Our will, ourselves, forever. "We'd be gone," I said, my chest tight. Eliza nodded, her hand on mine. "But we'd save them." We gathered. Herbs chanted under that lone star, the town watching, some praying, others turning away. Months passed, the chapel quiet, but the hill shook sometimes, red light seeping from cracks. We prepared, knowing the abyss wasn't done. One night the sky went starless again, the hum faint but growing. We entered the chapel, hammer and codex ready, our scars aching. The pit was still, but the air held eyes, watching. We set the rite. Herbs burning, salt circling, our wills joined. The gate flickered, its voice soft. "You are ours," we chanted, pouring our lives into it. Fear, love, everything. Shadows rose, weak but sharp, cutting my hand, Eliza's cheek. The hammer glowed, my strike shaking the air. Eliza's voice broke, blood dripping, but she held on, our hands locked. The gate faded, the hum died, the chapel silent. We stumbled out, the sky clear, one star bright. The town slept, fear easing, but our scars burned, the hammer pulsed, and the codex whispered of deeper gates. Days later, the hill cracked again, red light stronger. We stood together, hearts heavy. The starless abyss was locked, but its hunger was eternal. Chapter 10. The Final Hunger. I woke up with a scream caught in my throat, my body shaking like I'd been pulled from a frozen river. The air in my uncle's old house was thick, heavy, with the smell of rot and something sharp, like iron left in rain. It had been days since Eliza and I closed the starless abyss in the Bone Chapel, shattering the gate that tried to swallow Eldridge into the void. We thought we'd locked it away, but my bones burned now. A deep, gnawing pain that felt like the chapel was eating me from the inside. The hammer, its star runes glowing steady, sat on my nightstand, pulsing like a heart that wouldn't stop. It scared me, how it seemed to know what was coming. Eliza came by at dawn, her face pale as bone, her blue eyes dull, like the light in them was fading. "You're barely here, Tom," she said, shoving a mug of coffee into my hands. It smelled bitter, grounding me just enough. My hands shook as I sipped, the cup rattling. "The town's gone quiet," I said, voice hoarse. "Too quiet. They're waiting for something." I didn't tell her about my dreams. Black voids with no stars, voices chanting my name, hands pulling me toward a hunger I couldn't see. "Come. Feed. The end." Eliza nodded, her hand on her arm, where her wound pulsed red alive. "I hear it too. The chapel's not done. It's starving." Eldridge was a ghost town. At the diner, folks sat like statues, their eyes empty, barely touching their food. Old Hank was gone, taken by the abyss, and the others whispered of shadows in their homes, shapes that moved when no one looked. Last night, the church bell rang on its own, a single note that shook the ground, and bones appeared in the town square, human this time, clean and polished, stacked in a spiral. No one touched them, but everyone felt the chapel's pull, like it was breathing down their necks. We went to my uncle's attic, digging through his papers for a way to end this. Among crumbling maps and star charts, we found a final note in Silas's hand, barely legible. "The chapel is the final hunger, a mouth to the void's core. It feeds on everything, bones, dreams, souls. Only a full sacrifice seals it, giving all you are." A sketch showed a pit deeper than any before, with a single eye staring up, endless, hungry. "It's soon," Eliza said, her voice shaking, pointing to a date scratched out. "Tomorrow. The last alignment." That night, as the sky turned black, no stars, just a void, the call hit like a storm. I was with Eliza at her farmhouse when a hum shook the earth, deep and hungry, cracking windows. Outside, folks walked from their homes, eyes blank, heading to the hill. "It's got them all," I said, my heart pounding. We ran, shouting, pulling people back, but they moved like machines, drawn to the chapel. The air was heavy, buzzing, like 1,000 voices whispering at once. The chapel stood tall, its doors wide, red light pouring out like blood from a wound. Inside, the air was thick, the hum so loud it hurt my teeth. The pit swirled, shadows forming shapes, tentacles, eyes, mouths that sang of nothingness. Faces flickered in it. Hank, Clara, Ben, Tim, Widow Crane, their eyes pleading, screaming. Silent. The hum turned to voices, clear and cold. Feed. Become. The hunger. My legs shook, wanting to step closer, but Eliza grabbed me, her nails biting. "Tom, stay!" Her voice was sharp, pulling me back. The Bone Codex was in my bag, its pages falling apart. It spoke of the final hunger, the chapel's true core, a gate to a void that ate everything. To seal it, we needed a rite, will, starlight, and a sacrifice of everything, not just soul, but existence. "It'll erase us," Eliza said, her voice breaking. I nodded, the hammer heavy, its runes burning my hand. We had no choice. The town was fading, and we were the last line. We gathered the last herbs, star bloom, silverleaf, mixed with salt, and the hammer, its glow fierce, like it was ready to fight. The sky was empty, a black so deep it swallowed hope. We went to the chapel at dusk, the hum shaking the ground, the air thick with eyes. Inside, the pit was a vortex, shadows twisting into forms, beings with too many limbs, mouths that laughed and cried. Townsfolk stood around it, swaying, some stepping into the dark, gone. Eliza started the chant, her voice raw but fierce, her knife's runes glowing bright. I spread the herbs and salt, forming a circle around the pit. The hammer burned in my hand, its hum fighting the chapels. I set it in the circle, and the pit roared, shadows lunging. One grabbed a boy, little Sam, the grocer's son. His scream cut short as he vanished. I swung the hammer, its runes blazing, shattering a shadow. Eliza's chant grew louder, blood dripping from her eyes, her wound pulsing like a heart. The pit fought, shadows clawing at us. One slashed my leg, pain like fire, blood soaking my pants. Eliza staggered, a tentacle wrapping her arm, but she slashed it, chanting through gritted teeth. I struck the air, shadows bursting, their screams like worlds breaking. The townsfolk woke, some running, others lost, stepping into the pit. "Keep going," I yelled, my voice gone. Eliza nodded, her face white, blood streaming. The pit pulsed. Its voice in my head, "Give all, be the hunger." I saw a void, no stars, just endless dark, my name echoing forever. My hand shook, the hammer heavy, but Eliza's voice cut through, fierce. We poured our will into the right, the circle glowing, starlight breaking through the roof, even with no stars. The pit slowed, shadows thinning, but a gate appeared. A tear in reality, black and vast, with a single eye staring out, hungry. I raised the hammer, aiming for the circle's center. The gate screamed, a sound like existence tearing, shadows rushing us, faster, stronger. One cut Eliza's side, blood pooling. I swung, smashing shadows, my leg burning with pain. Eliza's chant faltered, her body shaking, but she grabbed my hand. "Together, Tom," she gasped. We chanted, our voices one, the hammer glowing white-hot. I struck the circle, cracks spreading, light bursting. The gate wailed, pulling at us, tempting me with visions. Nothingness, eternity, my soul consumed. Eliza's hand tightened, her eyes burning. "Stay with me!" I hit again, the circle shattering, the gate collapsing with a roar. The pit stilled, shadows gone, the hum silent. The townsfolk blinked, waking, stumbling out. We fell, bloodied, barely alive. The chapel was quiet, the air clear. Outside the sky was black, but a faint star flickered like a heartbeat. "Did we do it?" I whispered, my voice gone. Eliza leaned on me, her breath weak. We sealed it, but it's still there. I felt it in us. Back in town, silence held, but grief was heavy. Sam was gone, others too, their families broken. Folks looked at us like we were ghosts, their eyes scared. We hid the hammer, its glow dim but alive, the codex beside it, its pages silent. It spoke of no more alignments, but the void was patient, waiting. "It's part of us," Eliza said, her wound still bleeding, pulsing like the chapel. My bones burned, tied to it, like I was its meal. We tried to heal, helping the town, but fear stuck like rot. We searched the codex for an end, finding only a final warning. The hunger could never die, only sleep. "We'd have to give everything," I said, my chest tight. Eliza nodded, her hand on mine. "For them." We gathered herbs, chanted under that faint star, the town watching, some praying, others gone. Months passed, the chapel still, but the hill shook, red light seeping from cracks stronger. One night, the sky went black again, the hum faint but alive. We entered the chapel, hammer and codex ready, our scars burning. The pit was quiet, but the air held eyes, waiting. We set the rite, herbs burning, salt circling, our wills joined. The gate flickered, its voice soft. "You are mine." We chanted, giving everything, fear, love, life. Shadows rose, weak but sharp, cutting my arm, Eliza's neck. The hammer glowed, my strikes shaking the air. Eliza's voice broke, blood dripping, but she held on, our hands locked. The gate faded, the hum died, the chapel silent. We stumbled out, the sky clear, one star bright. The town slept, fear gone, but our scars burned, the hammer pulsed, and the codex whispered of deeper voids. Days later, the hill cracked wider, red light blazing. We stood together, hearts heavy. The final hunger slept, but its appetite was eternal. Chapter 11. The void's embrace. I woke up clawing at the air, my lungs burning like I'd been drowning in darkness. The air in my uncle's crumbling house was thick, heavy with the stench of mold and something sour, like blood gone stale. It had been days since Eliza and I sealed the final hunger in the bone chapel, shattering the gate that tried to drag Eldridge into the void's jaws. We thought we'd bought some peace, but my bones screamed now, A deep, relentless fire that felt like the chapel was gnawing my soul. The hammer, its star runes pulsing with a faint, sickly glow, sat on my nightstand, beating like a heart that wouldn't quit. It scared me, how it seemed to whisper my name. Eliza came by at dawn, her face white as death, her blue eyes hollow, like the life was draining out of her. "You're slipping away, Tom," she said, thrusting a mug of coffee into my hands. It smelled bitter, sharp enough to pull me back for a moment. My hands shook, spilling drops on the floor. "The town's worse," I said, voice raw. "They're not sleeping, not talking, just staring." I didn't tell her about my visions, endless voids, no stars, just eyes watching, voices promising, secrets that cut like knives. "Come, embrace the void." Eliza nodded, her hand brushing her arm where her wound pulsed red, alive, angry. "I hear it too. The chapel's awake. It's in us." Eldridge was a graveyard. At the diner, folks sat frozen, eyes blank, barely breathing. The ones who spoke whispered of shadows in their rooms, shapes with too many eyes, vanishing when light hit them. Last night, the town well overflowed with bones. Human, animal, polished clean, piled in a spiral that glowed faintly red. No one went near it, but everyone felt the chapel's pull, like a hand on their hearts. Old Widow Lyle, one of the few still talking, said she saw her son in the mirror, his face half gone, beckoning her to the hill. The air was heavy, like it was waiting to swallow us whole. We went to my uncle's attic, desperate for answers in his mess of papers. Among star charts and torn letters, we found a journal, its pages crumbling, in Silas's shaky hand. The chapel is the void's embrace, a gate to its heart. It feeds on everything, bones, dreams, lives, to open the way. Only a total sacrifice seals it, giving all you are, forever. A sketch showed a pit, deeper than any before, with a single eye staring up, vast, unblinking. "It's tonight," Eliza said, her voice trembling, pointing to a date scrawled in blood-red ink. "Today. The last call." That evening, as the sky turned black, no stars, just an empty void, the hum hit like a fist. I was with Eliza at her farmhouse when it shook the ground, deep and sharp, cracking the walls. Outside, folks staggered from their homes, eyes empty, walking to the hill like moths to a flame. "It's got them all," I said, my heart hammering. We ran, shouting, pulling people back, but they slipped through, drawn to the chapel. The air buzzed, thick with whispers, like 1,000 voices chanting at once. The chapel loomed, its doors wide, red light spilling out like a bleeding wound. Inside, the air was heavy, the hum so loud it rattled my bones. The pit swirled, shadows twisting into shapes, tentacles, eyes, mouths that sang of nothingness. Faces flickered in it. Hank, Clara, Ben, Tim, Sam, Widow Crane, their eyes pleading, screaming silent. The hum turned to voices, cold and sharp. Embrace, become, the void. My legs trembled, wanting to move closer, but Eliza grabbed me, her nails digging into my arm. "Tom, stay with me." Her voice was a knife, cutting through the haze. The Bone Codex was in my bag, its pages falling apart. It spoke of the voids, embrace the chapel's final gate, a door to a nothingness that devoured worlds. To seal it, we needed a rite, will, starlight, and a sacrifice of everything, not just life, but essence. "It'll take us," Eliza said, her voice breaking. I nodded, the hammer heavy, its runes burning my hand. We had no choice. The town was fading, and we were the last stand. We gathered the last herbs, starbloom, silverleaf, crushed with salt, and the hammer, its glow fierce, like it knew the end was near. The sky was black, a void so deep it swallowed thought. We went to the chapel at dusk, the hum shaking the earth, the air thick with unseen eyes. Inside the pit was a vortex, shadows forming beings, tall, with too many limbs, mouths that laughed and wept. Townsfolk stood around it swaying, some stepping into the dark, gone forever. Eliza started the chant, her voice raw but fierce, her knife's runes glowing bright. I spread the herbs and salt, forming a circle around the pit. The hammer burned in my hand, its hum fighting the chapels. I set it in the circle, and the pit roared, shadows lunging. One grabbed Widow Lyle, her scream cut short as she dissolved into the dark. I swung the hammer, its runes blazing, shattering a shadow. Eliza's chant grew louder, blood dripping from her eyes, her wound pulsing like a heartbeat. The pit fought, shadows clawing at us. One slashed my arm, pain like fire, blood soaking my sleeve. Eliza staggered, a tentacle wrapping her leg, but she slashed it, chanting through gritted teeth. I struck the air, shadows bursting, their screams like glass shattering. The townsfolk woke, some running, others lost, stepping into the pit. "Keep going," I yelled, my voice gone. Eliza nodded, her face white, blood streaming. The pit pulsed, its voice in my head. "Give all. Be the void." I saw nothingness, a black so deep it ate light, my name echoing forever. My hand shook, the hammer heavy, but Eliza's voice cut through, fierce. We poured our will into the right, the circle glowing, starlight breaking through the roof, even with no stars. The pit slowed, shadows thinning, but a gate appeared, a tear in reality, black and vast, with a single eye staring out, endless, hungry. I raised the hammer, aiming for the circle's center. The gate screamed, a sound like worlds dying, shadows rushing us, faster, stronger. One cut Eliza's side, blood pooling. I swung, smashing shadows, my arm burning with pain. Eliza's chant faltered, her body shaking, but she grabbed my hand. "Together, Tom," she gasped. We chanted, our voices one, the hammer glowing white-hot. I struck the circle, cracks spreading, light bursting. The gate wailed, pulling at us, tempting me with visions. Nothingness, eternity, my soul consumed. Eliza's hand tightened, her eyes burning. "Stay with me." I hit again, the circle shattering, the gate collapsing with a roar. The pit stilled. Shadows gone, the hum silent. The townsfolk blinked, waking, stumbling out. We fell, bloodied, barely alive. The chapel was quiet, the air clear. Outside, the sky was black, but a single star flickered like a faint hope. "Did we do it?" I whispered, my voice gone. Eliza leaned on me, her breath weak. "We sealed it, but it's still there." I felt it in us. Back in town, silence held, but grief was heavy. Widow Lyle was gone, others too, their families broken. Folks looked at us like we were cursed, their eyes afraid. We hid the hammer, its glow dim but alive, the codex beside it. Its pages silent. It spoke of no more alignments, but the void was patient, waiting. "It's in us," Eliza said, her wound still bleeding, pulsing like the chapel's heart. My bones burned, tied to it, like I was its prey. We tried to rebuild, helping the town, but fear clung like damp rot. We searched the codex for an end, finding only a final warning. The void could never die, only sleep. "We'd have to give everything," I said, my chest tight. Eliza nodded, her hand on mine. "For them." We gathered herbs, chanted under. That lone star, the town watching, some praying, others gone. Months passed, the chapel still, but the hill shook, red light seeping from cracks, stronger. One night the sky went black again, the hum faint but alive. We entered the chapel, hammer and codex ready, our scars burning. The pit was quiet, but the air held eyes, waiting. We set the rite, herbs burning, salt circling, our wills joined. The gate flickered, its voice soft. "You are ours." We chanted, giving everything, fear, love, life. Shadows rose, weak but sharp, cutting my hand, Eliza's cheek. The hammer glowed, my strikes shaking the air. Eliza's voice broke, blood dripping, but she held on, our hands locked. The gate faded, the hum died, the chapel silent. We stumbled out, the sky clear, one star bright. The town slept, fear gone, but our scars burned, the hammer pulsed, and the codex whispered of deeper voids. Days later, the hill cracked wider, red light blazing. We stood together, hearts heavy. The void's embrace slept, but its hunger was eternal. Chapter 12. The Eternal Hunger. I woke up choking on darkness, my heart pounding like it was trying to claw out of my chest. The air in my uncle's rotting house was thick, heavy with the smell of damp rot and something sharp, like blood caked in dust. It had been days since Eliza and I sealed the void's embrace in the Bone Chapel, shattering the gate that tried to drag Eldridge into the abyss. We thought we'd won, even just a sliver of peace, but my bones screamed now, a deep burning pain that felt like the chapel was eating my soul. The hammer, its star runes glowing with a sick, steady pulse, sat on my nightstand, thumping like a heart that wouldn't die. It scared me how it seemed to call my name in the dark. Eliza came by at dawn, her face pale as a corpse, her blue eyes empty, like the light had been sucked out of them. "You're barely holding on, Tom," she said, shoving a mug of coffee into my hands. It smelled bitter, sharp enough to pull me back for a second. My hands shook, spilling drops on the floor. "The town's dead inside," I said, voice rough as sand. "They're not living, just waiting." I didn't tell her about my visions. Black voids with no stars, eyes staring from nowhere, voices promising truths that burned my mind. "Come, feed, forever." Eliza nodded, her hand brushing her arm, where her wound pulsed red, alive, angry. "I hear it too. The chapel's awake. It's in our blood." Eldridge was a husk. At the diner, folks sat like ghosts, eyes blank, hands still. The few who spoke whispered of shadows in their walls, shapes with too many mouths, gone when you looked. Last night, the town's oak tree split, spilling bones, human, clean, polished, arranged in a circle that glowed faintly red. No one touched them, but everyone felt the chapel's pull, like a hand squeezing their hearts. Old Mrs. Tate, one of the last to talk, said she saw her husband in the fog, his face half-eaten, pointing to the hill. The air was thick, like it wanted to choke us. We went to my uncle's attic, clawing through his papers for a way to end this. Among torn star charts and faded notes, we found a final scrap in Silas's shaky hand. The chapel is the eternal hunger, the void's mouth. It feeds on all, bones, dreams, souls, to open its core. Only a complete sacrifice seals it, giving everything, forever. A sketch showed a pit, deeper than any before, with a single eye staring up, endless, starving. "It's tonight," Eliza said, her voice shaking, pointing to a date scratched in red. "Today. The last gate." That evening, as the sky turned black, no stars, just a void that swallowed light, the hum hit like a blade. I was with Eliza at her farmhouse when it shook the earth, deep and sharp, cracking the floor. Outside, folks staggered from their homes, eyes empty, walking to the hill like ants to sugar. "It's got them," I said, my heart hammering. We ran, shouting, pulling people back, but they slipped through, drawn to the chapel. The air buzzed, thick with whispers, like 1,000 voices chanting in my head. The chapel loomed, its doors, wide red light spilling out like a gash. Inside, the air was heavy, the hum so loud it shook my teeth. The pit swirled, shadows twisting into shapes, tentacles, eyes, mouths that sang of nothingness. Faces flickered in it. Hank, Clara, Ben, Tim, Sam, Widow Lyle, their eyes pleading, screaming, silent. The hum turned to voices, cold and sharp. Feed. Become. Eternal. My legs trembled, wanting to step closer, but Eliza grabbed me, her nails cutting my skin. "Tom, stay!" Her voice was a whip, snapping me back. The Bone Codex was in my bag, its pages crumbling to dust. It spoke of the eternal hunger, the chapel's final core, a gate to a void that ate everything. To seal it, we needed a rite, will, starlight, and a sacrifice of all we were. Not just life, but existence. "It'll erase us," Eliza said, her voice breaking. I nodded, the hammer heavy, its runes burning my hand. We had no choice. The town was fading, and we were the last wall against the dark. We gathered the last herbs, starbloom, silverleaf, crushed with salt, and the hammer, its glow fierce, like it was ready to die with us. The sky was black, a void so deep it ate hope. We went to the chapel at dusk, the hum shaking the ground, the air thick with unseen eyes. Inside, the pit was a vortex, shadows forming beings, tall with too many limbs, mouths that laughed and screamed. Townsfolk stood around it swaying, some stepping into the dark, gone forever. Eliza started the chant, her voice raw but fierce, her knife's runes glowing bright. I spread the herbs and salt, forming a circle around the pit. The hammer burned in my hand, its hum fighting the chapels. I set it in the circle, and the pit roared, shadows lunging. One grabbed Mrs. Tate, her scream cut short as she dissolved into the dark. I swung the hammer, its runes blazing, shattering a shadow. Eliza's chant grew louder, blood dripping from her eyes, her wound pulsing like a heart. The pit fought, shadows clawing at us. One slashed my chest, pain like fire, blood soaking my shirt. Eliza staggered, a tentacle wrapping her arm, but she slashed it, chanting through gritted teeth. I struck the air, shadows bursting, their screams like metal tearing. The townsfolk woke, some running, others lost, stepping into the pit. "Keep going," I yelled, my voice gone. Eliza nodded, her face white, blood streaming. The pit pulsed, its voice in my head, "Give all, be eternal." I saw a void, no stars, just endless dark, my name echoing forever. My hand shook, the hammer heavy, but Eliza's voice cut through, fierce. We poured our will into the right, the circle glowing, starlight breaking through the roof, even with no stars. The pit slowed, shadows thinning, but a gate appeared, a tear in reality, black and vast, with a single eye staring out. Endless, starving. I raised the hammer, aiming for the circle's center. The gate screamed, a sound like worlds collapsing, shadows rushing us, faster, stronger. One cut Eliza's side, blood pooling. I swung, smashing shadows, my chest burning with pain. Eliza's chant faltered, her body shaking, but she grabbed my hand. "Together, Tom," she gasped. We chanted, our voices one, the hammer glowing white hot. I struck the circle, cracks spreading, light bursting. The gate wailed, pulling at us, tempting me with visions. Nothingness, eternity, my soul consumed. Eliza's hand tightened, her eyes burning. "Stay with me." I hit again, the circle shattering, the gate collapsing with a roar. The pit stilled. Shadows gone, the hum silent. The townsfolk blinked, waking, stumbling out. We fell, bloodied, barely breathing. The chapel was quiet, the air clear. Outside, the sky was black, but a single star flickered, like a faint pulse. "Did we do it?" I whispered, my voice gone. Eliza leaned on me, her breath weak. "We sealed it, but it's still there." I felt it, in us. Back in town, silence held, but grief was heavy. Mrs. Tate was gone, others too, their families broken. Folks looked at us like we were cursed, their eyes scared. We hid the hammer, its glow dim but alive, the codex beside. Its pages silent. It spoke of no more alignments, but the void was patient, waiting. "It's in us," Eliza said, her wound still bleeding, pulsing like the chapel's heart. My bones burned, tied to it, like I was its prey. We tried to rebuild, helping the town, but fear clung like rot. We searched the codex for an end, finding only a final warning. The hunger could never die, only sleep. "We'd have to give everything," I said, my chest tight. Eliza nodded, her hand on mine. "For them." We gathered herbs, chanted under that lone star, the town watching, some praying, others gone. Months passed, the chapel still, but the hill shook, red light seeping from cracks, stronger. One night the sky went black again, the hum faint but alive. We entered the chapel, hammer and codex ready, our scars burning. The pit was quiet, but the air held eyes, waiting. We set the rite, herbs burning, salt circling, our wills joined. The gate flickered, its voice soft. You are ours. We chanted, giving everything. Fear, love, life. Shadows rose, weak but sharp, cutting my hand, Eliza's neck. The hammer glowed, my strikes shaking the air. Eliza's voice broke, blood dripping. But she held on, our hands locked. The gate faded, the hum died, the chapel silent. We stumbled out, the sky clear, one star bright. The town slept, fear gone. But our scars burned, the hammer pulsed, and the Codex whispered of deeper voids. Days later, the hill cracked wider, red light blazing. We stood together, hearts heavy. The eternal hunger slept, but its appetite was endless.